What is going on, guys? Skits coming at you from Madness Central. Anyway, getting another round of questions tonight about steering knuckles, spacers, bearings, separating them, how to do it. Come up with another way to separate them. I have the Rotunda toolkit from the Ford services. The service manual refers to. It's what the technicians used back when the technicians would actually work on the Festivas. And I tried this already, and I got this stuck in here. It's going to take some work to get this out. But what I have here is a 2-jaw puller. You can get these at Harbor Freight. Stupid cheap. And they break stupid easy. But they'll work. They'll get the job done. I started on this one. Rebuilt this one. And it felt a little chunky when it was assembled. Every once in a while, I find that they do that. Maybe it goes in cockeyed or something. You separate it, you put it back together, and it's fine. And then it runs fine for thousands and thousands of miles. I don't know why. But I got a 22 millimeter socket on the end of this. That's just what I happen to have. What you're trying to do is you're trying to push on this spindle. Let me get this in camera. Mirror image. You're pushing on this spindle to push it out of the hub. So, I mean, there's a lot of sizes of sockets that could fit on there. And I'm just finding a spot to hook this. I started pushing it a little bit as a test. And it was starting to move it out, so I figured it'd work. I've never actually done it like this. But, shout out to Hot Wheels, Rick Roberts. He showed me a picture of his Polar a night or two ago. Rick, whenever that was that we were talking at 2 o'clock in the morning on Facebook Messenger, whatevs. Then he shot me a picture of it. And I was like, oh, there's another way. Maybe somebody else out there in Festiva land can use this as a way, since they may not have the Rotunda kit. I mean, I've got a video on YouTube that shows me knocking it apart with a hammer and a socket. And that works too. I ain't gonna lie, a 19 millimeter on an impact gun would make this a lot easier. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put a 19 millimeter on an impact gun. But you get the idea. If you had this mounted in a vise or something, which I probably should have done to be smart. If you mount it in a vise, you find some way to hold it still. You get your 2-jaw puller on there. And then you just ram it down. And if you weren't counting like I was, that was 164 Ugga-Duggas. What up, Corey? So that separates them like this. Now, like I said, I've done this with hammer and socket. The Rotunda kit makes it the easiest. I mean, I've used the Rotunda kit sometimes and it ends up being like it comes apart so easy. Like you can practically turn it by hand and just separate them. And other times you need the gun. They get tough. They separate out. And this is the spindle. These are for spires, actually. And then you have a bearing race that you seat on each side. And then the tapered bearings sitting there. Somebody is asking specifically about these. So, used to be when I would buy Timken bearings. God, I don't want to take these out. My hands are dirty. When I would buy Timken bearings and test the preload, which is a different procedure I'm not going to go into now. I'd always come out. It'd nail it. Preload would be perfect. I mean, and I've rebuilt the 5 or 6, 7 without checking the preload, just sending it with Timkins. And then Charlie said, man, I'm never getting them to come out right. And I started checking again. And sure enough, I'm having to use the spacer selection tool to get this right. But anyway, these are tapered roller bearings. I still use Timkins, but National makes quality bearings too. And one side's bigger than the other, so the tapered end, the smaller side goes towards the middle. This spacer sits inside of here like that. And what I do is I put the outer on and put the wheel seal on. That's now down here. Flip it over. When I flip it over, that's when I seat the spacer in there. Set the other lubed up bearing on top of that. And I take a little bitty screwdriver and just go around like that to make sure that is centered. So that's how they go together. Now, we're using a press here when we do these to press them back together. But I'm going to have to clean this up before I use it. Probably got it a little dirty. But what you can do is you can go, what I've used a lot, and I'll probably use again in the future, is if you go to the hardware store and you can get a galvanized steel bolt and nut and a couple of washers by like 1/2 inch. You can get it like 4, 5, 6 inches long. And you just run it right through this spindle from one side to the other. And as you screw it down, there's nothing like the power of an inclined plane. It just pulls it right together just as neat and easy as you can. You screw it, you just bolt it down until it just won't go anymore. It's going to go real easy, and then it's going to get hard to push, and I'd give it like a 1/4 turn. Make sure it's not stuck on something. It goes back together. And once you've done that, you should be good to go. Now, I'm doing these with the spacer selection tool. These spacers are about almost $6 plus shipping each. And I ordered 20, and I need to order, there's 21 sizes of them, and I need to order probably 30 or 40 more. So come on, somebody buy a steering knuckle for me so I can afford to buy more. No, actually, I'm getting ready to make another order here tonight or tomorrow, so I can rebuild a bunch more. I've got a bunch of these. They're going to be for sale, but in the meantime, if you can't afford to buy one, or you're just trying to rebuild it, you just got to have it right now. Here's a little video to try to help you out and give you an idea of what's going on. If you do that and then you go into the service manual, there's a PDF for free of the service manual in the files section on the Facebook page for FordFestiva.com. You can look in that. I can't remember the page that it is, but you can look in that and you can find, you know, drawings and everything. But here's some actual video. You put it with that. If you have some mechanical knowledge, if you have any aptitude at all, you should be able to figure it out. That said, this spacer, if you leave this out, you're not going to make it 1,000 miles probably. You're going to be replacing bearings. You start wearing out the bearings, and you start scoring this up, you turn this blue, it's trash. So don't leave out the spacer in the middle. Don't go, oh, here, which is what happens when you go to the shops. They chuck this thing all the time. And then there's hundreds of nightmare stories about people who have done that and had that happen. This old company I used to work for, I just realized which sweatshirt I was wearing. I just lost my train of thought there. But anyway, that spacer selection is getting to be more and more important all the time. If you don't have the right spacer in there, you're probably, and I don't mean to say this to be fearful, but you're probably just doing a stopgap fix. You might get 10, 15, 20,000 miles if the spacer is close. And I think that's what's been happening with a lot of people. A lot of the knuckles that I'm doing when I do the spacer selection on them, I'm only having to go down a size or so. Some of them I'm having to go, I had to go from a number 12 spacer to a number 19 spacer just recently, just to get it barely in the spec, to get it to work. I promise you, if I'd rebuilt it with that 12 in there, that thing wouldn't have made it very long at all. But a lot of these that I'm rebuilding that had a 12 come out of it, I have to put an 11 in it. It probably would have been okay for a decent amount of time. I mean, a year or two. I mean, I think most people would go, oh, hey, $20 and a few hours of my time, get another 2 years down the road on my bearings, I'll be happy with it. And we probably have a lot of us who are getting exactly that out of rebuilding them the other way. So anyway, that's Scitzz talking about Festiva steering knuckles, or, well, in this case, Aspire, but yeah, the Ford Aspire, the Festiva, the Mercury Capri knuckles, the Kia Rio knuckles, they all have the same thing. They all use the same spacer setup. And they all work the same way. Y'all stay excellent to each other. And happy Thanksgiving. And Merry Christmas to everybody. I said, stop recording me. My phone don't like me. It's not going to stop recording me. It likes me too much. It wants y'all to see me a whole lot more.